Hello everybody, this is Dino Don back with the next progress report on the Corsair. These past few days I finished up adjusting these boards. Remember the last time I told you they were backwards? All I had to do was just take the resistors off the one side of the board, solder them on the other side. So these were on the back side, put them on this side, and the same with these. They were on here, put them on there. So now they're correct. I've got the, this is the left wing. There's a little tiny red dot in the center, which lets me know that's the red LEDs. These are the green. So the green goes on the right, red goes on the left. This is the outside of the wing. This is the same way, but it's kind of got to go like this. It's just for, but anyway, they're all good now. And I had to take one of these off from one side and put it on the other. So they're basically identical sets, but this one will be turned that way. So anyway, I wanted to show you what they look like. Now this first one is going to be the strobes, and these things are pretty blinding, so here we go. Nope, sorry, those are the recognition lights. Tail light, left, right. Alright, now to do the strobes, I gotta flip this over. And then these strobes, there is a mode I mentioned when these strobes are just turned on for like taxiing. They give you a power reduction of like 33%. So that's all the lights that would help give you kind of a floodlight out on the wingtips. Now that's just the 30%. Now this is going to be the actual strobes, and each one does double flash. So double flash one, double flash the other, and double flash the third. It doesn't do them all at the same time. It does them in sequence. So here we go. It's extremely bright. Very, very bright. Very hard on the eyes. So, so that's all done. All I got to do is get some 22 gauge, probably 4 conductor shielded wiring. Because you need 4 wires out to each wing, just for these. And then you only need 2 to go back to the tail light. Because the circuitry for that's all on the board. So that's all done. So, yesterday, I spent a lot of time yesterday. You can say I pulled my intake off because I got to do these elbows. But I also did it for another reason. I pulled the plugs out, and I was rolling the engine through to check some dimensions. I went to put the cowling on to check the clearance for the muffler. You can see I took the muffler off. It's sitting back there. The cowling's sitting back over there. But I put the top cowling on so I could attach the bottom, because the top one, remember, I lengthened it so it attaches here, and the bottom one won't fit in the right place. So I had to put the top on first, put the bottom on, and it set fine. And we went up in there, and I've got like a 1/4 inch clearance from these studs to hit in the cowl, and I'm going to be hacking off, you know, between 1/4 and 1/2 inch, even more. So I have no problem with them clearing. So that's all ready to go. Just cut them down, and then when I put the cowling on, I was looking at the muffler to see that it was centered in the cowl, and it was closer to the cowling on this side, which is the right side of the plane, than it was the left side. And the muffler can move left and right, but I'm looking at it, and it's like, no, it's centered. So then I started looking at it, and then the opening of the cowling comes right here by the starter, and around, and I could tell it was off center. So I grab a ruler, and I measure from like the back side of the from this turn piece here to the inside edge of the cowling, and there was an inch difference. This was over out of center, but it was an inch shorter on this side than this side. It was like 9 inches, 8 inches, 8.5, 9.5, something like that. So what it tells me is this was looking like it was a 1/2 inch off center. And then looking at it, I took the parting seam of the block, and I marked it here, and I looked to here. I took a string, and that pink string I got there, and I tied a loop in it, hooked it up here around the tail, pulled it straight across the top of the canopy, straight across the windshield bow, and then the windshield bow has a screw at the very 12 o'clock position. Come through here, this attach point is dead center in the firewall, pulled it out here, put a ruler on here, and sure as shit, it's a 1/2 inch off. It was 1/2 inch that way. It's got, and then I went inside and drew it up in my CAD, and that's a little over a 1 degree of engine right. which wouldn't be bad if this was a normal rotating engine, but it's not. This airplane on takeoff, I have to hold left rudder, not right rudder. Most airplane propellers spin clockwise and they cause a left turning tendency. This one spins counterclockwise, causes a right turning tendency, so you have to use left rudder. So this right angle is going to make the situation worse on takeoff. So that's no good. And then also, I got in and had to get out the prints and find out where was a good place to measure the fuselage. This fuselage actually kind of humps up a little bit and then it tapers down. So the top of the fuselage is not parallel to the center line of the aircraft. So I had to get the prints out and look at all that, figure out where I could go. And it turns out the spar is square to the center line of the fuselage. So I was able to put the protractor in there and read it, and it was 10 degrees, I believe. But when I come out here, put this on the front of here, it was 12 degrees. So the engine was nose down 2 degrees as well. So I was like, oh man. So I was out here for hours yesterday trying to measure up, figure out where is it off. You know, I'm measuring from this attach point, this attach point. These are all identical, so it doesn't matter if you measure from here to here. And I'm measuring everything I can, measuring from here to the firewall, because these pulleys are perfectly in line, because it's lined with the center. You can't have the belts at an angle, they'll come off. So they're perfectly, these pulleys are exactly, not exact same, but they're in the same plane. So I'm measuring there, and I'm seeing like a half-inch difference from side to side. It's like something is majorly out. And I'm measuring from here to here, and I just tearing my hair out trying to figure out where this thing is off. I could not find it, So took a break last night, like 6 o'clock, came back out to do one last check, and then I ended up using a piece of, this is an aluminum rod, and it's still nice and straight. So by taking it and setting it right here on top of this mount, and then underneath on the other side, I'm going like this, so it comes across the top of here and across the bottom of the other side. And what that does, it puts it nice and flat up against the back of these mounts. So then I was measuring from here to the center of here, and then I finally found the errors. So what happened was this corner here is sticking out, my scribbles here, 5/16 of an inch this way. That one is sticking back 3/16 of an inch. So there's a half-inch difference from here to there, or from here to there. Well, I ended up putting 3 washers in here because I was coming up with like 3/16 the first time I did it. And that helped. I mean, that took about a 1/4 inch out of it, out of up front there. But that was 3 washers in there, and then I figured it needed 1 in the bottom, so I put 1 on each side. So that kind of squared it up, picked the nose up. Well, then I came back out again, like I said, last night and measured, and I found out that that one is 5/16 forward, this one is 3/16 backward in comparison to the bottom 2. The bottom 2 are perfect, right at 5.5 inches exactly. So in order to make it work, I would have to add another, let's see, 4, what have I got here? 5 washers I'd have to add to that. So I'd need 8 washers. That's a 1/2 inch. I would need a 1/2 inch of spacer in here where you can see these washers. That's only, each one of them washers is a 1/16 inch. So I need 8 of them, 1/2 inch. And on the bottom, I'd have to add 4 more. So I'd need 5 on each side, 5/16 on each side, just to get it out to match this corner here. So there's no washer under this one, but there's one under here and on the bottom. So the bottoms are perfectly 5.5 inches, but the top, this one is 5/16 out. That one's 3/16 out. So that's causing the right turn and then down, nose down on it. So the only thing I could figure is when I made the mount, remember I had to use 3/4 inch plywood to reference hold this point and these points. And then you had to tack it all up, and then you had to take it out to weld everything. And it either the board's warped from the heating and then taking it off, something warped, but these two were the problem. They really raked the hell out of it. So in order to get to the bottom ones, I had to disconnect this hose off the bottom of the engine where the oil comes out of the bottom of the motor. So I took that off, put a bucket in here, and I drained it. and it drained out just a little over a quart. I was like, well, it seems like a lot, but when you're talking about this big plate in here, that's probably less than an inch of oil in that plate. So, but it was a good thing, I was able to pull that off and see how much oil was in it. And I was kind of moving the prop around. I actually put the propeller on here and with one blade, and I pulled all the plugs out so I could roll it over easy. So I was bringing the prop up here, and I was using it to measure from point to point, and move it over to here, measure from point to point on the same. I was marked the propeller with a piece of tape and where I was measuring it from, and I couldn't find it. It's just all over the place. So, long story short is, in order to make this right, you'd have to shim the hell out of this another half an inch, or 5/16, 5 washers, yeah. It'd give me a ½ inch of space. Basically, this thickness right here, this is ½ inch, so you'd have to put something like this right here. So I'm like, well, then you're going to end up with 3 different length bolts. That would be a short bolt, this would be a really long bolt, and the 2 bottom bolts would be the same. So you'd have 3 different bolts, and then you're kind of getting into a cockeyed thing where the bolts aren't going to line up and go through straight. So I've decided I'm just going to have to break down and make a new mount. And then when I make the new one, these blocks will be gone, and this will be reattached there with the 1-inch offset. So bad news, I got to make another motor mount. But the nice thing is everything's done. All I got to do is make a new mount, swap it out, throw it in. I'm not going to reuse anything off of this mount. So I've already started today. I ended up cutting bushings down and make the new pads. These will be the new pads here for the mount. So them are done. And then these other bushings are these boys for here. So they'll go back in. So I'll be eliminating this, and these will just be longer, and of course they'll be at a different angle. Instead of up here, it'll be down here. So I did some kind of preliminary measurements to get an idea of length of how much tube I need for this one, this diagonal here, and then the bottom ones. So it worked out to about 9 feet of tubing. Before I'd ordered 8 foot. It was enough to do this. This is at 5/8 035 wall. This is ½ inch 035, and then these are ½ inch like 058 or something. But they're really nice fit. The bolts, they tell you to use like 062 wall, but you can't get 062 anymore. Yes, these got little burrs in them. No, that was good. So that fits good, even if with this wall thickness. I think it's, like I said, 058. So that's a nice fit, because trying to get the bolts in and out of those things at times, you got to kind of drive them out with a drift. So those are all cut and ready to go. Now I'm debating. I don't have any 5/8 tube. I'd have to order some, and you're looking at about $50 for the tubing. Well, I do have plenty of ½ inch, and this is 049 tubing, I believe. So it's thicker than the 035. So I looked up in the catalog to see what the weight is between this and this. This is 5/8, but this is thick stuff. This is like 058, almost a 16th inch thick. So that's real heavy stuff, and I don't have enough. That's barely 5.5 foot long. So I've got enough of this ½ inch 049. So I looked it up in the book, and it's a difference of 0.2738 pounds per foot for ½ inch, and the 5/8 inch is 2205, so it's lighter. So the ½ inch is thicker and a little heavier than the 5/8, which also equates to stronger. So I'm debating if I use that. I've got the material right now. I can just start cutting. I'll make up a new jig, a better jig. I do have a granite surface plate here underneath this valve grinder. This is 2 foot square that I'll make a jig, and I'll bolt it. I'll clamp it right to that table. So when I'm welding it up, that'll have to be drug over by the welder because it's heavy, or get an extension cord for the welder. But I can use that to hold the part flat while I weld it up. So I'm going to do it similar to what I did before, but I'd like to find like a piece of plate steel, or a 1/4 inch piece of aluminum plate or something. I could use the 3/4 plywood again, but by clamping it down to the table. And this one's nice because it's got a an edge on it, I can actually clamp right to it. And it's 2 foot square, and this is only less than 19 inches, and this is only 20 inches. So it'll fit on there, and I can clamp the board to that, and then as I weld it, nothing's going to warp or move. And I've figured out the angles of what these would have to be at, so I can drill those and cut them at the right angle. The biggest problem is you got one bolt this way, one bolt that way, and they're coming in at a different angle. They're a real pain in the ass to troubleshoot. So, but I did get those made, those ready, so that's a start. So that's kind of where I'm at. Not what I was expecting, but I just can't leave it like that. It's not anything that I even noticed until then, but I was mentioning that string. I put that string and I held it all the way up and lined it up through here, and it was off, you know, half an inch. Out here it was coming up with the ruler on here. Took a 1-inch ruler, 1-inch wide ruler, and when it set right in the middle and clamped it, the string was coming out to the edge of here. So that's a half. This is a 1-inch wide, so it was a ½ inch that way. It's an inch off in the opening cowling, but if you move it a ½ inch, you close it a ½ inch here, you add a ½ inch there, that splits the difference, so it's only ½ inch off. It was an inch different from side to side, but once you move this from, say it's 9 inches, you move it a ½ inch, that's 8.5. And this was 8 inches, you move it ½ inch, you're at 8.5, so it's 8.5, so it'll be center again. But the muffler was fine where it was. I could run my fingers underneath the muffler with it horizontal, and it had enough room for my fingers to clear. Because I was looking to see what angle I wanted to run the pipes out, and then that set a whole thing in chain reaction into all this stuff. I pulled the battery out of the way to get in there and measure everything, but I finally got it drawn out, and I modified my drawing. This was the original drawing of the firewall. These are the firewall mount points. These are the 4 on the engine. Again, the engine was originally made with a ½ inch lower, so I had to correct the dimensions, put it up so it's center line on the fuselage. So then I went in and measured all the dimensions. Their dimensions are 100, but they're too small because this is, you know, like almost 2.5 foot in diameter. So I went in there and I measured the lengths and to figure out the angle. So now I gotta start all over. But again, you know, I was just tinkering with that in the mornings before I drive out to work, and I was doing this. I finished this up yesterday morning. All I had to do was change the resistors, and just one of these I had to flip around. So they're fine now because this points down, this one points down. So when they're in the wing, that one's like that, and when they're in the wing on this side, this one is like this. So when you look at the top of the wings, left wing, right wing, that's the outer tip of the wing, and then this is the tail, of course, which will be back here. So I mentioned I needed to find a 3-foot cable. So I spent an hour today just trying to get my damn printer working right. It's Wi-Fi and everything, just so I could print this out to have some dimensions come out here to work. And man, it took me an hour to get that. It was been working fine, and it just got a bug up its ass, and it wouldn't work again. So I had to go in, download the app. Everything's got an app, and it's on my laptop. So finally got it working. But I wasn't able to print from the CAM program. I had to go and use an external print command off of Windows in order for it to recognize and send it to, but it did work through Wi-Fi. I didn't have to, usually I would just go over and plug in the cable like it's on here for the printer cable, and it always worked fine, but it wouldn't work this time. So, and it's probably some damn Microsoft update that doesn't play well with others, as always. Alright, I guess that's going to do her. Tomorrow I've got to go ride, got to go work, make money. I'm broke again, so that's why I don't even have after tomorrow working, I'll have money if I wanted to order some 5/8 tubing. But I'm seriously thinking of just using this ½ inch stuff. It'll be a little skinnier, but it's going to be just as strong as this stuff. I mean, thinner tubing, thin wall, bigger diameter tubing is real stiff, but if you hit it, it'll kink a lot easier than a ½ inch. And then everything would be half, and so I'm not sure. I'm just frustrated with it. I'll have to drain the water, finish draining the oil tank. Remember, that line goes all the way up into the tank, so it doesn't drain any oil with that feed line out of the engine into the tank. It blows it up in. I'd mentioned when I was showing the video last time, actually what happened is the oil is blowing up in there, and it's hitting the top, and it's just raining down like a fountain, like a pond, pump in a pond for a water fountain in a pond. It just looks like an umbrella. It was completely solid film, and like a whole umbrella in there, just flowing in there, just as high as could be. And the nice thing was it wasn't aerating the hell out of it. And what that is I was going to say you figure with the block sealed off, everything sealed up tight, you've got, 80 pounds of oil pressure from the oil pump feeding into the galleys. Well, if the block is completely sealed, eventually that whole block will reach 80 psi because of the oil pump pushing all the oil in there. That 80 psi has got to go somewhere. So that 80 psi of oil pressure is pressurizing the case, and then it's forcing the oil through the only opening that's available, and that's the drain. And it blows it up in there, and it's just blowing it up like a straight pump of fluid, man. There was no spitting and sputtering. It was just beautiful. The thing works absolutely incredible. I'm really happy with that. So, but after it's shut down, you're going to get some drainage and laying in there and some feedback from stuff to where it ended up with a quart in there. So when the tank's running, you basically got 4 quarts in here and a quart. But once you start it up, a lot of that will blow back up into the tank. But once it shuts off, you're going to have all the draining from the galleys. So it ended up with, and then I kind of did some cranking over on it before and then running it by hand. But that was after I pulled the plug. So the oil pump will still tend to squeeze oil through there when you go clockwise or go in the right direction with the motor. All right, I guess I've already ran over. I'm into my second half of a video here, so I guess that's going to do her. So more bad news, but I don't have to take this apart until I get the new mount made, and then it's just pull it off, put it in, put it right back on. But the only bad thing is I got to drain the water, drain the oil, and pull the lines and stuff like that. And this is the only electrical connection, so it just pops off. The hose, I've already pulled the hose off. Throttle, and I'll just leave it hooked up, move it out of the way, just throw it to the side. It don't have to come off, just disconnect a couple of the fuel lines that are attached to the parts on the motor. So, more setback, but again, with my vertigo, today I went for a walk this morning with the dog, and it was just wobbly the whole time. I was like, oh my God, it's like back to day one almost with trying to walk with this vertigo. But I can't go flying, so I will just keep plugging away on this, and then it's going to correct, this problem here, and going to correct all that. So do it right, I guess. No, if it would have been fine the way I had it this way, I'd have used it. But I noticed it was off, so I was like, damn it, I'm going to have to fix it after all. So, but I mean, it does get to be a real pain in the butt notching these tubes. You got, like I said, one's this way, one's that way, so you got to notch this tube this way, and this tube down here's got a notch to fit this way, and you're at a compound angle. It's a nightmare. So, all right. I mean, it welds up quick once you get all the tubes fitted. But it's just going to need a really good method of holding it so it doesn't warp. So I'm not quite sure because, after I made the jig, I measured everything. Everything was set. It needs to be 5.5 inches from here to here, 5.5 to be what I want. So that's what I got to work with. All right, I guess I'm going to cut her off there. I don't think there's anything left. Trying to think of anybody. I see a couple people have responded to the guy that was looking to sell a set of plans for Corsair and some wood kit. I see he had at least 2, maybe 3 people interested, wanting to know where he was, and sent him some messages. And I did end up pinning that comment from 2 videos ago. I pinned it, so it's at the top. So if anybody wants to look and contact the guy, all you got to do is look at the very first post. It's pinned to that last video from Sunday, whatever Sunday was, 3rd, 8/3/2025 update. So, all right, I guess we're going to cut her there, and I'll see you guys again next weekend, and hopefully I'll have the motor mount pretty much well underway, if not done. 2 days worth of work. I mean, it'd be tough, but I'll get a bunch of it done, I suppose. Alright everyone, that's going to do her. I'm going to end her, and as always, appreciate everybody taking time to watch my videos. Feel free to leave any comments, questions, concerns, and I will answer them as they come in, and appreciate the ones that people are leaving now. So, that's going to do her, and I will probably see you guys again next Sunday. So for now, this is Diner Done Out.